Coming up, a judge hands Kofi Goodman his sentence for killing 11-year-old Marco Archer. Find out if it's life or death.
Also ahead, Operation Ceasefire putting a dent in the crime problem.
And out with the old and in with the new. What this means for a family of 7. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Candino Knowles.
I'm Keish Latterly. Good evening.
Kofi Goodman has been sentenced to death for the 2011 murder of Marco Archer.
Justice Bernard Turner handed down the sentence this afternoon, referring to the killing as one of the worst, a reference to the landmark Privy Council ruling restricting the imposition of a death sentence.
The ruling came after a series of delays in the sentencing phase and a retrial.
Now, Fern Carey was in court for Goodman's reaction to the case's conclusion.
Justice Bernard Turner sentenced convicted murderer Kofi Goodman to suffer death in the manner authorized by law. 38-year-old Goodman appeared unmoved on Tuesday at the prospect of being put to death and even smiled as Justice Bernard Turner told him his fate. He then told the court, quote, "I will appeal it." Now, before passing sentence, Justice Turner classified the case as the worst of the worst in keeping with new amendments to the law. He noted that 11-year-old Marco Archer was abducted and murdered and then met his death by some combination of a blow to his head, which caused the fracture of one of the hardest bones in the child's still developing skull, and the placement of a plastic bag around his entire head. Justice Turner said at some point Archer had his clothes removed, leaving him naked, and his body was discarded at the site where it was eventually located, covered with a sheet and plastic sheeting and partially concealed under a suitcase also found at the site. And in taking into account the mitigating and aggravating factors of the case, Justice Turner said, quote, "I am sure that there is no reasonable prospect for the reform of the offender. Over a period of many years now, he has displayed predatory behavior towards young boys. That behavior has escalated from sexual assault to attempted murder, now to murder in the circumstances indicated. He has shown no remorse," end quote. Justice Turner also indicated that the death penalty is necessary to protect society from any further predatory conduct by Kofi Goodman and to satisfy the requirements of due punishment for the murder of Marco Archer. Marco Archer's mother, Tryphenia Meadows, spoke to reporters outside court.
Well, I feel good for that, but then it can't bring Marco back. But then I feel good to know that the man who do it to Marco, he behind bars for the rest of his life.
Lead prosecutor Gavin Gaskin reacted to that decision.
It was an absolutely just verdict. It's unfortunate that it can't bring Marco back, but at least it's a step towards some closure for the family in particular.
Meantime, Goodman's attorney Jeffrey Farquharson said Goodman is not happy with the ruling and he believes it will be overturned on appeal.
Matters that we are going to appeal range all the way from those matters of complicated law to very simple and straightforward matters like there was a fight in the jury room during the deliberations in this matter, a fist fight. Ought the matter to have been withdrawn from the jury as soon as that had taken place? Obviously so.
Meantime, Justice Bernard Turner has ordered Farquharson to appear before him for a hearing on November 26 in relation to his conduct during the 4-month-long trial. Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
Attorney General Senator the Honorable Allison Maynard Gibson said today the death sentence for Kofi Goodman represents justice being served.
It's the second death sentencing to be handed down in the last few weeks.
Now, the Attorney General says this case shows Bahamians that the execution of justice is a top priority for the government.
Now, while Goodman's attorney intends to appeal, Minister Maynard Gibson says her office will expeditiously prosecute the matter.
What I simply want to do is to remind the public that in this country we do have a separation of powers, and it is entirely up to the judiciary which includes, of course, the Court of Appeal and the Privy Council, to determine whether or not the judgment of the Supreme Court will be upheld. I can assure the public that we, as I said, we will fight abuse of process, we will expedite the prosecution of those appeals, and we will strongly fight to support the decision of the Supreme Court at every step of the way.
And with 2 death sentences in a matter of weeks, Director of Public Prosecutions Vinette Graham-Allen touted the swift justice initiative.
It's not important to I wouldn't say that it's not important to the office, it is important to the administration of justice. As the Honorable AG has said, I would like to look at it in the larger context than just our office. We are here to serve the public and to ensure that the rule of law prevails in this country.
National security officials hosting Operation Ceasefire, the second in a series of crime forums last night that gave law enforcement officials the opportunity to hear concerns from the public. It was also an opportunity for them to provide an update on what government is doing in the fight against crime. Now, while it might not have drawn as large a crowd as did the first forum, the National Security Minister says he's encouraged. Andrew Knowles was there.
3 murders last week, including the shocking killing of businessman Kurt McCartney, is added proof that serious crimes have a seemingly hazardous grip on society. And while McCartney's murder in particular may have drawn special attention, National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage assured that he's got a handle on things.
Following our last listening forum, there has been somewhat of an abatement of crimes of violence in particular, but also of crimes in general.
Here's some of what's being done. Government has intensified police saturation in communities, especially hotspot areas, in the last few months. They have also beefed up resources with the acquisition of 40 new police vehicles.
I also wish to inform you that recruitment of police officers is not only ongoing, but we've started 2 new recruit groups last week, and we are about to start another in the very near future.
And then there's the tabling of legislation, such as the Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill. The government is also proposing legislative amendments like Marco's Alert, as well as legislation related to the regulation of the cash for gold and scrap metal industries to help minimize criminal activities associated with those businesses. But Dr. Nottage believes the emphasis has to be on crime prevention.
And therefore our focus will also be on at-risk youth. We are moving forward assiduously towards pursuing crime prevention programs that are directed at the young. I am about to present to my cabinet colleagues for their approval our shock treatment program, which is a part of our Operation Ceasefire initiative.
The program will target at-risk children between the ages of 11 to 15 and will seek to instill positive and fulfilling values. But the minister also got an earful from those in attendance who made numerous suggestions at Monday night's forum.
Every government we had seems to avoid national service, okay? And we got to implement it. We could make 1 million suggestions here tonight. I don't think it will ever solve the problem. But national service is the key.
Put gun laws in place where a brother, when he think about putting a gun in his hand, he can recognize that, boy, you see, hit him 20 years for a gun. See, I ain't giving you this time for the gun, you know. I giving you time for what this gun capable doing.
I think you're talking to the wrong people. You're talking to a bunch of victims here. You need to talk to the criminals. Have a forum with the criminals.
If we want to stop the crime, we got to start locking up the corrupted senior officers, the corrupted government officials, the corrupted corporate people. We have more white-collar crimes that go unreported in this country than murders, rapes, and anything in this country. So you can't say we want to stop murdering and you still got the white-collar crimes being committed.
Has the government given any consideration to imposing a curfew? If not, why not? This could be a useful tool against crime.
The next forum is scheduled for November and is titled Talking Back. It will allow law enforcement heads to give feedback on their new ideas and initiatives. Additionally, the first Family Island Forum will be held in Grand Bahama next month. Andrew Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Maybe it was a coincidence or maybe it wasn't, but following the crime forum Monday night, someone dropped a 9mm handgun off at the Ministry of National Security. Now, Minister of National Security Dr. Bernard Nodded says while this was not the safest option, he's encouraging persons to turn in these weapons as they have created havoc in our society. He added that while no formal program for turning in weapons has been established, this is something his ministry is looking into.
There are persons who own them, there are persons who lease them, there are persons who live in homes where they know that there are weapons. These weapons have caused a great degree of violence and as you know, murders in our country over the past several years. Exchange for guns, groceries, clothing, etc. for a lot of people who are down on their luck and don't have money to buy food and clothing, etc. That's an option. But yes, currently we would encourage them, if they wish, to turn them into pastors, who are people who they feel safe with and who they feel will not create any problems for them.
Well, since launching the new crime-fighting initiatives, Dr. Nodded says police have been able to retrieve more than 100 illegal firearms, many of them linked to criminal matters. Head of the Firearms Unit, Superintendent Ken Strawn, says they are also looking at persons who have licensed weapons but seek to do harm.
When the Commissioner of Police signs off on a firearms, a shotgun in particular, he's signing off primarily for the use of hunting. I don't think we hunt people in this country. And so clearly, when you find that those kinds of things are happening, that makes us very, very nervous and concerned. And so we respond, taking you into custody and charging you.
Police are investigating the death of Curtin McCartney, but there are concerns among some over whether or not this murder has been given preference by police. Our Janaea Noel Ferguson was on the street today and has the public's reaction to how the case is being treated compared to others.
Businessman Kirk McCartney was killed last Thursday, and shortly after his death, police launched a public appeal for information on his murder. It was also reported that police were offering a $1,000 reward for any information that led to the conviction of perpetrators responsible for his death. A day after that, the McCartney family offered $50,000. This sparked concern among members of the community who questioned why this particular murder appeared to be receiving priority from police. A Haitian man was shot and killed in Palm Beach Street just hours after McCartney's death, and locals said it appears as if his murder or any other in recent times was not given the same attention.
Any Bahamian who dies on the street or is murdered should be treated with the same intensity, because this affects all of us.
But for everybody, like for other people too, like if someone else get killed or someone else die, they should probably do the same thing, find a reward for the same person.
So you expect for them to offer reward for McCartney, but if it was the ordinary citizen, well, he isn't nobody. He just go just like that.
If they killed my brother, the police ain't offer a grand to say, you understand where I'm coming from? Some of them look at us like, can you go get wife away? You don't need to be here. You ain't got nothing, you ain't never got nothing, we ain't giving you nothing. So just die.
Our ZNS News team also spoke with Minister of National Security on the issue. He said this was a matter for the Commissioner of Police to answer.
I suggest you direct that to the Commissioner.
But that's not the norm. And you being...
I don't think that's the first time the police have offered a reward.
Can you say why it was done in this case?
I just finished telling you. I'm not able to answer that question.
We attempted to contact Commissioner of Police Ellison Greenslade, but our calls went unanswered. Superintendent of Police Stephen Dean clarified for us that Crime Stoppers offers a reward to anyone of up to $1,000 for any information on any crime, and the police did not offer such a reward. Many police releases pointed this out.
And it's so unfortunate that we have to offer a reward in order to get people to be forthright with information that can help resolve the crime or to get information from people. It's sad that we have to come to that.
Janaea Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
In our first look at weather, with just 31 days left in the tropical cyclone season, the tropics remain quiet, but outside of our studios, we have just a few clouds floating around. Temperature 80 degrees, relative humidity 66%. Your winds out of the east-northeast at 12 knots, and your barometric pressure 1,018.7 millibars. That's 30.08 inches, and it is rising. But stay tuned. Temperatures around the Family Islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Still ahead tonight, another look at the impact the new construction on San Salvador will have for that island. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
And things are looking up for one family as this old house comes down. We've got the story straight ahead. The Bahamas Tonight continues in a moment.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.